Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year to everyone. I'd like to call the Burke County Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017, 3 p.m. to order. All commissioners are present. Manager and attorneys are present. Remind you as you come forward to please use the microphone so that our television and internet folks can hear what's being said, as well as we get a good recording for the clerk as well. Ask everyone to be sure that your mobile devices are switched to silent. And with that, gentlemen, we have the agenda in front of us. You've had time to look at it. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All in favor of that, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. All right, this afternoon we have presentations, two presentations. I'd like to recognize Scott Carpenter, our Deputy County Manager, Planning Director, concerning the recognition of Paul Braun.
Mr. Chairman, Happy New Year to all of you gentlemen. This is a bittersweet presentation. I got off the phone before I came in with Mark Stinson with Hospice. And Mark feels that our friend Paul Braun may not be able to make it to January 24th meeting. So he's deteriorating, and they felt it would be best if myself and one of the commissioners went to see him, perhaps Mr. Abley, or whoever you all choose to go see him. So there's a lot of people trying to do things for Paul. If you remember Paul Braun back in 2004, 12, 14 years ago, he was quite a force to reckon with in these chambers, but he did do a lot, and a lot of the things that he did are preserved now with the Lake James State Park. He's done a lot for South Mountain State Park, and he's just really been an environmental advocate who's really tried to do things for the county on those levels. So there's a lot of people doing different things for Paul, and let me tell you some of those things is Superintendent Nora Coffey went and met the week before Christmas with Eric Jenkins, and they presented him with a picture of a double rainbow taking over the lake. The Friends of Lake James State Park are also presenting him with a flag, and the flag flew over Lake James State Park. It also flew over the South Mountains State Park. They have contacted Representative Blackwell, and they sent an application for him for the Longleaf Pine Award, so they will be filling that out and making that available as well. We're also hoping that the Sharon McBray will perhaps do an article on Paul and his life at some point, recognizing all the wonderful things that he has done and brought to the county. As far as the county goes, Kay is putting together a plaque, a presentation, and it's a picture of Lake James. It's taken from a bench, and that bench will probably be a reflective bench, or if Paul passes, it will be a memorial bench that looks out over the lake. And part of what we wanted to do was to do a picnic area, a rest area on the trail. Someone else, Lee Zenzo, is doing a trail marker, and one of our friends, Martha Whitfield, is working with Paul and helping him to publish his book. So there's a lot of different things going on for him, but I just wanted to make you aware of his condition.
Scott, I talked to Eric today. We were going to go try to visit him today, and of course the hospice thing came up. So we don't know, I guess, with hospice, but I was thinking with his condition, if there's some way we could make this presentation to him, possibly. I talked to Eric, and if we can get there tomorrow, he's going to call me in the morning. If we can get there, if somehow we could make that presentation, I don't know if he's going to make it to you know, I know he won't be here at our meeting anyways, but
Right.
But it'd be nice if, while he's still living, if we could make that presentation to him at hospice tomorrow, if we can get there and whatever, but,
We'll get a hold of Mary in the morning and find out.
but the, one of the, I don't know, wildlife or forest was gonna go with us today, and, you know, they just had to put it off or whatever, but Eric was gonna
Right.
call me in the morning to see where it is, if we can go see him, but it would really be nice if we can make that presentation, if he's at hospice and, you know, whatever, and not wait till our next meeting, if there's
Okay.
a way we could do that.
But, you know, regardless, it's a wonderful thing that is taking place, that so much of the anger and hostility and things that happened at Lake James and here and in between, how those things have resided and how friends have been made and how Paul trusts us and the environmentalists that we're watching out for their interests now. And I thank you, gentlemen, for that.
All right, thank you, Scott. We certainly regret to hear Paul's condition, and we do remember all the great work that he's done for our county and the area. And so we'll leave that presentation then to Wayne, and if you don't mind, Wayne, and I think you probably have had the most contact with Paul over the years, and
But if it's a possibility, if we could get that to take to him tomorrow, if we can get in there tomorrow, that
right.
would be
I know
wonderful.
Kay's been working on it. We got some things to frame, and hopefully we can get those, and just as quick as we can get all that ready, that would be great. Any comment from other commissioners about this matter?
Mr. Chairman, if I might make two. Number one, Wayne, I'm sure you wouldn't mind if they get it set up and they notify you and you're able to join Wayne and presenting that. I don't see anything wrong with more than one person showing up. Second, Scott, I was with Paul at the state level when he received the county received a nice award, that same presentation for the preservation of Lake James. So he has been very active, and some people would call him dog-minted. He really stayed after it, but he did have a lot of good input, healthy input into that situation. So, but Wayne's fine with me, but I was just thinking if some of the other commissioners were available and wanted to attend, I believe that would be healthy too.
Any other comments? All right, thank you, Scott. Appreciate your efforts on this matter also. All right, second matter of presentation is Big Brothers Big Sisters proclamation declaring January 2017 as National Mentoring Month. And to present that is Dorian Palmer, Secretary of Big Brothers Big Sisters. And please introduce yourselves for us today.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Dorian Palmer. I'm currently serving as a secretary for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Western North Carolina.
And I'm Terry Martino. I'm on the advisory council for Big Brothers Big Sisters and also a school-based mentor.
Thank you.
And one of the reasons we came to you guys this month is because January is National Mentoring Month. And there are lots of communities and lots of counties and cities across the state and country who are doing declarations, preparing, and naming national mentoring. And Burke County, I'm asking you guys, I'm asking the Board of Education, and I'm asking the councils to each do the same declaration, basically. And this News Herald has agreed to do one press about it also.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard this. You've seen the presentation in your information. Any questions regarding the proclamation?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment? I have discussed this with Brian a little bit. The last paragraph, provided y'all do not object, really needs to read, since it's coming from the board, it needs to read that the Board of County Commissioners of Burke County. Then, of course, it's signed by Jeffrey as the chairman. But it just makes a little better sense to do that.
Right, I agree. Any other question or comment about this proclamation? Madam Clerk, you got that change? All right, without objection, then this will remain on our agenda for our normal meeting. All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate you being here today. Okay, gentlemen, we'll move right along. We have no scheduled public hearings for our meeting. That'll bring us to our consent agenda items. Item number 1, Blue Ridge Community Action, Community Service Block Grant for fiscal year 17-18. That'll be presented by Karen Hoshman with Blue Ridge Community Action. Okay, Karen.
Hello, I am Karen Harshman with Blue Ridge Community Action, and I am here to request consent to, from the County Commissioners for submitting our Community Services Block Grant. I believe this will be our 52nd year, or maybe 53rd, I gotta think about that, 52nd year for submitting this grant. You have been presented with a fact sheet. Do you want me to go through the fact sheet? Do you want to just ask me some questions? What's your process?
Okay, gentlemen, you have received all this information, a whole lot more than the fact sheet. Lots of information concerning this. I think at this point, Karen, we'll just open the floor for any questions that the commissioners might have regarding all the information that we have before us.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question for you. Funding levels, I see Burke County's 212,000, Caldwell's 180, Rutherford County 167. Is that based on population? How was that?
It is. It's based on the census data,
Okay.
and then they take the number of low-income homes per county, and that's how it's allocated.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, a couple, looking at this package, and you're right, Mr. Chairman, 173 pages long is how long that is. And may I compliment you on a job well done. Anybody looking to write a grant might could look at yours as a model, because it certainly is detailed and explains about everything you'd want to know. I did have a question of, I read it over it a couple of times, and at one point I came up with about close to 52% of the grant was for administering. So half the cost of the grant would go for whoever's administering the program, or to, in this case, would be Blue Ridge Community. Is that a close assumption?
No. Our administrative costs are about $84,000, I believe. So I'm not sure where you're,
I had it on page 59 is what I've got down as where I was looking.
page 59.
Let me get over there to
I'm not sure what the exact page number would be, but there's a one-page budget that reflects how the total dollars are. It's probably 100 pages in, maybe. And on this one-page budget, it tells you the salaries and wages, the fringe benefits, the communication costs, space costs, travel costs, those kinds of things. At the bottom where it says indirect cost, there's $44,000 for the information referral project, $38,000 for the self-sufficiency project, for a total of $83,000. That is the amount that they pay us to administer the program. Everything else goes to direct services for low-income families in Burke, Caldwell, and Rutherford counties.
I think that is on the page 59 that you were referring to, I believe, Mr. Taylor. Where it says county budget, it's got each county across the top there.
Yeah, that's the one you have on the screen is the one
Right.
that I'm
Right.
referencing. The salaries and wages are for the workers to work with the families. That's not the administration of the program. That's the actual direct service that we provide to the family.
And the second thing, and probably the thing, and this is just for a heads up, if you will. I got a call today on the telephone about 11:30, and just Friday and yesterday I was reviewing this proposal, and I got a complaint of a grant that y'all are giving to someone, and I'm not about to mention the name, but that he has 5 cars in his driveway. His criminal record shows he makes $36,000 a year. And y'all are putting free heating and air conditioning, and he's going around the community bragging that he was able to get this free heating and air conditioning. Don't know what his wife makes or if she even works, don't know them that well. But I told him I would bring that to your attention today, and that's all I'm doing, is bringing that to your attention, that people out there are watching, and sometimes they feel like a lot of the quote tax dollars is being abused, if not wasted somewhat, and I don't know. I can't even tell you how accurate, except I did pull up his criminal record, and it does show he makes $36,000 a year.
So we operate a number of programs. This program is not one that would provide that service. The other programs that we operate are the weatherization program, the HARP program, which is heating appliance repair and replacement, and we also are operating the Duke Helping Home Fund program. And so those programs have their own income and need requirements. The waiting list for those programs is typically about 2 years. So if this person receives services, they've been on our list for a while, in addition to the fact that they've probably been recertified a couple of different times. We have multiple layers of accountability through our independent audit and through also the state monitoring of the grants, not just from one state department, but this particular department that provides that grant is the Department of Environmental Quality. And so I assure you that if the person received those services, or if they are receiving those services, then whatever their circumstances are, Blue Ridge Community Action has done all of their due diligence in making sure that this person is qualified and that their home is qualified.
Explained a little bit of that to them, that,
Right.
you know, you're under the auspices of somebody greater than the county commissioners. You're from a state level or federal level.
Yes, sir.
And I told them that, you know, to qualify, they had to go through numerous questions, answers.
Absolutely, yes,
and
sir.
a series of steps to get to that point. And
Yes, sir. There's a great vetting process that happens for anyone that receives services from us. However, we do not take into accountability a person's criminal history, nor do we take into accountability their any other proclivities that they may have. You know, we have to treat them the same as we would, you know, we cannot discriminate against race, gender, you know, all of those types of things. But I assure you that Blue Ridge Community Action is very diligent in all that we do to make sure that the monies that we are given are spent with great care to the letter of the regulation for which they've been given to us under.
so when you took his application, he could actually made less money than he's making now.
It's absolutely possible because those applications are good for a 12-month
I
period.
think that's the case.
That could very well be possible. It's also possible that, again, like I said, lots of times for that particular program, the waiting list is around 2 years. And so we have probably updated his income and his household information in addition during that time. But without knowing who it was, you know, I couldn't give any specifics, nor do I think this is the forum for that. But thank you, and we do appreciate, you know, any comments. And if there ever is a question, you please call us. Again, my name's Karen Harshman. I'm at extension 315 at Blue Ridge Community Action, and we'll be glad to discuss anything with you that we can.
You got it, and I thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Karen? No further discussion, then this item will remain on the agenda without objection. Thank you, Karen, for being here.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move to item number 2. This comes from our clerk, reappointment of Foothills Regional Airport Authority. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to reappoint Dennis Pearson to the Foothills Regional Airport Authority for a 2-year term ending January 31st, 2019.
Gentlemen, any questions regarding this matter?
Mr. Chairman, he attends every meeting. He's a really good member at the airport. He's also a pilot, and he adds a lot of good input to the airport board.
Thank you, Wayne. Any other comment? All right, without objection, this will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 3, from the clerk also, reappointment to Nursing Home Adult Care Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to reappoint Susan Merrill to the Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee for a 3-year term ending May 31st, 2019.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard this item. Any questions concerning it? Hearing none, without objection, this item will remain on the agenda. All right, item number 4, 2016 Annual Report for Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, also presented by our clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was hoping our regional ombudsman would be here today to answer any questions that you might have about the report. The report is in your agenda packet. I can review it or give you some highlights, whatever the board's pleasure.
Any question concerning this? Gentlemen, there's some interesting information in this report. I found it interesting. I hope you've taken a look at it. Any questions from anybody?
Mr. Chairman, if you please.
Yes, sir.
Kay, if you would, check with the ombudsman, and when we have some of these deficiencies and they're listed as mistreatment, do we know, is that mistreatment towards a client in some, do we know what manner?
I do not personally know, but I can find out from her
I'm
what that
curious, because we got
means.
deficiencies for quality of care, and then we have deficiencies for mistreatment and violations of residents' rights, et cetera. And I see where one facility was fined $367,000 for these deficiencies.
We had a couple that were fined.
I just would like to know what that is.
Out for you. I can report on a personal note that my mom retired from a nursing home. She was a nurse, and when the state came in and you got deficiencies, it was a big deal. So they were always very anxious when the state came in. But I'll get that information for you.
Any other question? Yes.
Yeah, just to echo what Johnny's talking about, Autumn Care, item 6 on page 190, and Carolina Rehabilitation, 6B, page 191. Can't read my own writing. Magnolia Lane Nursing, and they received fines, ratings of, for 2 or 3 different things, and one of them had up to 5 entities that they were charged with, or cited would be a better word. And I think this is the committee, Kay, that we're trying to get a bunch of people up, because we've been very limited, and I'm trying hard to get you a neighbor of mine. But I think it behooves all of us commissioners to try to find at least one person that would serve on this committee, because that's what's happening, not necessarily what's going on there. We're not having that checkup system that would help us out a little bit, so. I'm gonna try to get her at least one, and I think every commissioner ought to try to do that.
And as you will recall, I think last month we made 4 or 5 appointments. So we're making good progress, but we could use some more.
Madam Clerk, how did we leave the prospect of putting these 2 committees together?
And that's another reason why I asked the regional ombudsman to be here today, was to report on the progress of that. It's my understanding that once the board made its decision, we let her know. Tina at the COG, Tina Miller, yes, Tina Miller, she is the area aging director, so it goes to her, and she would be the one that writes the letter to the secretary at the state level, and I have requested an update on that. But as far as I know, it's going well.
Okay, all
If
right.
I hear differently, I'll certainly let you know.
Any other question or comment about this item? All right, without objection, it'll remain on the consent agenda. Item number 5 from the clerk also, removal of adult care home member, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to remove Rosa Taylor from the membership of the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee. She did not complete the required training.
Any question on this matter? Without objection, it'll remain on the consent agenda. Item number 6, reappointments to Tourism Development Authority. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to reappoint Teresa Selman to seat number 4, Collector of Occupancy Tax on the Tourism Authority for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2018. To reappoint Angel Crawley to seat number 8. She is also a Collector of Occupancy Tax and with the same 2-year term. And the third action is to remove Joel Wakefield, seat number 6, from the roster. He did not submit an application to serve again, and I think he's had some conflicts being able to attend meetings, so we're asking that you remove him and thank him for his service.
Again, Mr. Chairman, both Teresa and Angel are very faithful, attend all the meetings. Joey, he had conflicts and hardly was ever there. I mean, his heart was in the right place, but both of these members are really good members of the Tourism Board.
Thank you, Wayne. Any other questions, comments on this?
Does that keep, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, does that keep the board full on that then for tourism?
Except for Joel, and we're
For Joey's
looking
seat.
for somebody.
All I have, thank you.
All right, without further question or comment, this matter will also remain on the consent agenda. Item number 7, East Burke Senior Center appointments and reappointments, presented by Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to reappoint several members to East Burke Senior Center Advisory Council and to appoint 2 members and to remove a couple. This is one of those boards that we're kind of so we're requesting that Norma Klein be reappointed to seat number 1 for a term ending 2017. Appoint Larry Abernathy to seat number 2 for a 2-year term. Reappoint Sylvia Lale, seat number 3 for a 3-year term. Appoint Karen Robinson, seat number 4 for a 1-year term. Reappoint Colonel Thomas Taylor, seat number 5 for a 2-year term. Reappoint Elsie Childers, seat number 6 for a 3-year term. Reappoint Gail Fulbright, seat number 7 for a 1-year term, and to remove Jim Pitts, Peggy Scrontz, and John Powell from the roster and thank them for their service to the community.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any question about this matter?
Mr. Chairman, just one. Seat number 7 is from Conover. Do we allow people outside the county to serve on the Burke County Board?
Was that Gail?
John Powell,
John Powell.
at-large member.
Is that one of the ones we're taking off? We're removing him.
Pardon?
He is one of the ones that we're removing.
So we must assume at some point he moved. Is that? Makes no difference if we're removing him, but.
Any other question? All right, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 8, memorandum of agreement for Duke Energy funding support of public recreation facilities, Catawba Water Hydroelectric Project number 2232 over Mountain Victory National Historic Trail, presented by Scott Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. This is actually our second allocation of funding from Duke Energy. The first funding came in 2016 for $550,000, which we have been utilizing on the loop trail around Lake James. With this money, we'll bring the total to a little over $1.2 million that Duke will have appropriated in less than a 12-month time frame, so that's pretty good. This memorandum of understanding also came with the National Park Service that they were in agreement, since this is a national park trail. It's also the Fauna Flora State Trail. Just as a quick update on how we're doing financially out there at Lake James, to date, we've received this $1.2 million for the trails. We had a $900,000 road commitment, which brought us to $2.1 million. We had a gift of County Park, which was about a $2 million deal, which brought us to $4.1 million. We have received about $500,000 in grants from Recreational Trails Program, as well as commitments from the state. And we have another amount from an STPDA grant, which is Department of Transportation grant, as we try to get across the bridge. So we've rapidly approached $5 million on benefit to the county out there. We expect that to continue, not as rapidly, but I just thought I'd update you on that. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have on this memorandum of agreement.
All right, gentlemen, thank you, Scott. Any questions for Scott on this matter?
Thanks for the 4.1 million from Duke.
Oh, yeah.
All right, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Item number 9. Now we've got to account for this money. We'll hear from our Deputy County Manager, Finance Director, Paul Imes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're right, as a follow-up to what Scott was just talking about, the $656,000 we received from Duke, to properly budget and account for those funds, we need to set up a capital project ordinance. It's identical to the one we set up for the initial $547,000 from Duke. So any questions, we'd be glad to try to answer those for you.
Questions for Paul on this matter? Hearing none, that'll remain on the agenda. Thank you, Paul. Brings us to item number 10, finance for the new elementary school project, initial resolution and underwriter. Again, we'll hear from Paul.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman. As we move forward with this financing, there's going to be several things the board's going to be required to do. This is one of them. It's an initial financing resolution that's been prepared by our county's bond counsel, Parker Poe, that the purpose is to make certain findings of fact and authorize certain actions. And instead of reading the entire resolution, if you just want to look at the very end where you go into the be it resolved sections, you'll see certain things that are highlighted there. The authorization for the county to actually enter into a financing, authorization to file an application with the local government commission, because as I'm sure the board's aware, the financing will be subject to their approval, and we cannot proceed without it. Then there is also a section where it talks about the parties that will be involved in the transaction. It identifies Parker Poe, Adams Bernstein as the bond counsel. It identifies First Trine Advisors from Charlotte as the financial advisor. And I have in the audience today David Cheatwood, who's a director with First Trine, in case the board has any questions that I would not be able to answer regarding an underwriter or the resolution or anything involved in the process. And then the third part is the identification of PNC Capital Markets as the underwriter for the transaction. So we've got the parties identified and who will be involved with the transaction. And then the last thing, it calls for the public hearing to be held at the February board meeting. That is a required part of the financing also. So if, as far as the resolution, that's that component. We did, in selecting an underwriter, First Trine Advisors sent out a RFP, got proposals from 6 firms. The firms were narrowed from 6 down to 4, and then from 4, we had 2 firms, and discussing, the transaction between First Trine and myself. Once we weighed the cost, took that into consideration, and then the other factor that weighed heavily was recent transactions on financings our size. We recommended PNC Capital Markets to be the underwriter for the transaction. So, and again, that's incorporated in the resolution. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer those, or there's questions that our financial advisor, you'd like to ask him, we'll be entertaining those at this time.
All right, thank you, Paul. Gentlemen, you've had this information. Any questions that come to mind at this time that you'd like answered?
Chairman, I have two, I think. One of them's for clarification, not especially a question. When we attended that joint meeting with the school board, I thought that amount was 18 to 20 million, and we're looking at 25 million here. I read this again today. Kay, I did not have time to call you. I looked quickly at my stuff and did not find what I was looking for to get that number. And the second question, Paul, just to look at total indebtedness, what is the debt balance of the two high schools yet? Where are we on it? Do you know?
Well, we're basically halfway into those initial, we issued those in 2006, refinanced them in 2013. So we've got 10 years left on those. So we're probably at about 25 million, something like that.
Basically half paid for.
Right. And again, the thing the board needs to remember is when it comes to both the two high school finances as well as the proposed new elementary school, we're not using general fund tax dollars to pay the debt on that. It's coming out of the restricted resources that have to be spent for the schools anyway.
Well, the last junior high cost us 12 million, if I remember correctly. And, that's a, 40% increase to build.
I think, to get back to your earlier question, the 25 million, for these documents, really, because we really don't know what it's going to cost until you go out for bid and get the bids back. For, talking to the LGC and for public notice and public hearing purposes, you have to have an idea of a number, and that's why everything's worded, an amount not to exceed. So the only thing y'all are really doing is setting, the ceiling. You're willing to borrow, up to 25 million, and that's it. So actually, when you see these, you can sort of ignore the 25 at this point in time, because when we get the bids back at the end of February, 1st of March, then you'll really know how much it's going to be.
But I don't want to change in the middle of the stream. I don't want them to go from 20 to 25 when we okayed up to 20, and that's the question, really.
Well, I think that, it should be, not, we'll defer to the clerk when she looks back, but I think everything we talked about or at least had, the board to deal with was an amount not to exceed 25 million. Because I think the architect's estimate one time was roughly about 20 million, but then you got the architect's contract on top of that, which is over $1 million in itself. And then if the school system has to acquire land and equipment and stuff like that, so the cost will start mounting up. But we just have the 25 million as sort of the cap, knowing that when everything comes in, should be well under that number. So
If you remember, Maynard, it wasn't 12 million, it was 14 million at Walter Johnson. And at that time, the school board said, well, we can do some alterations and different things to that school to make it a high school, and probably spend maybe 20 million, 40 million for both schools. And if you remember, I believe they came in around 50 to 60 million on those two schools, which I don't know how it got out of kilter like that, but I mean, it was way over what we planned on. They thought 14 million, they could add a few million to that. Under 20, build two schools for 40, and I think they came in at 50 to 60 million dollars, if we remember.
Well, it's somewhat irrelevant, but I'd just like to know what we originally approved. And I might have it confused with what you just said, Wayne, that it was 20, but I know we did approve it at that meeting. I had in my mind set 20 million, 18 to 20 million.
Any other? Charles, would you? Any other comment or question? All right, Paul, thank you. Without objection, then this item will remain on the consent agenda. Brings us to item number 11, appointments to the Local Emergency Planning Committee. That'll be presented by Mike Willis, our fire marshal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The Local Emergency Planning Committee comes from a requirement for us to create and maintain such through the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act. What that group is designed to do is bring some industry and business folks into our planning process for response to emergencies that involve hazardous materials. LEPC is required to have, according to our bylaws, 15 members, and this year, 7 of those positions are up for reappointment, including seat number 8, which is our local elected official due to the retirement of Commissioner Carroll. The seats that are open are, the motion is to reappoint Charlie Watts to seat number 3, Mike Long to seat number 9, Matt Gupton seat number 6, myself to seat number 4, Darrell Dean to seat number 12, and Beth Anderson to seat number 15. These will be for a 3-year term ending in January 2020, and also to appoint one of the commissioners to seat number 8 to complete that unexpired term.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Gentlemen, you've heard this information. As you heard Commissioner Carroll will need to be replaced. Commissioner Carswell has expressed interest in replacing him on this committee, given his experience in some of these areas. I would entertain any discussion on that matter, any question from Mike. Hearing none, then we'll leave this matter on the consent agenda with Commissioner Carswell completing the unexpired term ending January 31st, 18 of seat number 8. Thank you, Mike. All right, that brings us to item number 12, Health Department Electronic Health Record System purchase. And we'll hear from Rebecca McLeod for this matter.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Okay. Thank you for having me here. I come to you in the mid part of the year, not to ask you for money. Yay, I'm so happy for once. I was about to have a stroke this fall whenever the state said, oh, for those 12 counties who are still on our state system for our electronic record, HIS, it will be going away as of September 1st because they could not work out the glitches with the developmental costs with Avatar. They gave us until this upcoming May to be under contract. They were giving us $20,000, and I was still having a stroke at that point in time because I know that our system cost way more than that. We did receive at the end of October, 1st of November, one-time monies in the abstract of $87,545.88, I believe. And the Board of Health, when we met at our last meeting, did agree that it would be a wise decision for us to apply that money towards the system and any other of the peripherals and equipment we needed, because we don't have the money up front, and I really didn't want to have to ask y'all for money. So since August, we have been looking, and just as a synopsis, we had to get 3 bids. We looked at 3 different systems. We had each of the vendors come out and make a demonstration for the staff, and then they submitted 5-year proposal. Again, I about stroked again because it's 5 years, but that is the industry standard for electronic health record, because for the first 3 years, they do not make a profit. And then the last 2 years are when they do make some money. But in trying to make sure they were apples to apples, not apples to oranges, to make sure it had all the equipment and components we need, we came up with 3. There's only really 4 major vendors in the state. The 4th one was even more than Cerner. So in getting the proposals to you, I am proposing the motion to go with CureMD. CureMD seems to be the most inclusive, and one of the reasons we're actually benefiting, because out of the 85 health departments in the state, because we have not switched over to an outside vendor. We've stayed with the state. All the other counties have had to pay for the development for all the glitches. We're now going to reap the benefits, and it's now inclusive. And you see it more so in the cost of CureMD versus, excuse me, Patagonia or Cerner. I would have liked to have gone with Cerner because that's what the hospital uses, but in all fairness, I cannot ask for taxpayer dollars to pay for a $200,000 system. Not when I can have one for $64,000 that will do everything that we need it to do, plus give us all the programs. So, I just come before you today to say, we have the money, or we'll have the money. Paul's asked me, now you are gonna get your $20,000. I said, it's up to, and they still haven't called me and told me the exact amount. But we do have the money to pay for the full system for 5 years. There's no increase. We've gone over the consumer price index, which 2 of the 3 systems we would have to use, but they don't with CureMD. So I'm here to answer any questions. It's been a long process for 4 months of trying to find a system that would work. We have to go under contract before May. And the staff would be it's very user-friendly, all 3 of them, pretty much. It's just, it boils down to the cost. And what can we as a small county health department afford? And to be good stewards of what we do. So I'll answer any questions, because I'm recommending that we go with CureMD. And Paul may be able to answer any questions, because we've gone back and forth on questions and answers, and with Steve Bennett back there with IT of asking, trying to make sure I could get all the questions that you'd have answered ahead of time in my mind.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. Okay, gentlemen, you've seen this information. What we're being asked to do is to approve an agreement with CureMD for this system. Any questions for Rebecca at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I have 2 really to kind of get my arms around this. Rebecca, on Cerna, you had 64,366. Cure Cloud was $14,900 and some dollars, and I understand that was monthly, not yearly.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Patagonia was $76,521, and that is for the full 5 years.
I brought them all. Patagonia for 5 years is $76,521, yes, sir. CureMD $64,366, and Cerner is $233,000.
Thank Mr. Taylor. As a matter of fact, I just asked Kay if we were missing a page, because at the end of Cerner, it goes into that 5-year breakout. That's really that chart does not go with Cerner. It's actually the beginning of CureMD. It's just not labeled, identified in there.
Page 258, I believe is what you're talking about. That one. That's the Cerner 5-year breakout. Gotcha. Okay.
And the other question, while I look that up, is what would be the major benefits of having the same system as Blue Ridge? How much does that weigh in the factor of that decision? Would we gain simplicity, less work, less hours? What do you gain by having the same system?
The staff not having to work out of 2 systems, but I've already talked with Blue Ridge, talked to Dr. Mazzola, and with Drew Thomas, the 2 people I deal with at the hospital, and have kind of informed them that Cerner could not get the cost down. And what CureMD will allow us to do is they're going to give the hospital free view only. We will have to pay for the electronic faxes that have to go to the hospital, where Patagonia is going to charge us $12,500 to actually put an interface in with the hospital. So the hospital was fine. They understood we own our records, and I cannot ask for I'm not going to ask for $233,000 when I know I can get the other system that's already more health department friendly. Cerner really would have been nice. I have champagne taste on a bare budget. Okay, I'm sorry. It's a really nice system, but it's very expensive. And Cerner at this point in time is not in the market as much for local health departments. They're more for the for-profit or the nonprofit hospitals. The whole system at the hospital is approximately 6.2 million. I just about choked and had a heart attack. So what are the benefits? Knowing that CureMD, I can have view only for the docs at the hospital with the electronic faxes, I'm good with that. And they're good with that because I have spoke to them about that. I wanted to do the other, but we can't afford it. And there is nothing wrong with CureMD. It is a very user-friendly, inclusive program that will get me all the programs I need for the state. Because Cerner, we were going to have to pay for the development of each of the reports I have to have sent in to the state. CureMD, it's already been factored in because they work with over half the health departments in the state. But those are very good questions because I wanted to do it, but reality is I can't do it. That answer?
Yeah, what you're telling me is you see no difference and that you're going to buy $88,000 system that's going to do everything, the 200 and whatever that figure was.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other question for Rebecca?
Mr. Chairman, just one quick question for Rebecca. How long has that program been in place? How long have they been utilizing that? Just curious.
6 years.
Okay, so pretty long history.
Yes, sir. And they're not only in North Carolina, they're up and down the whole East Coast. CureMD is actually based out of New York, but they have offices here in North Carolina. And since it's cloud hosting, RTP, Research Triangle Park, and then they have a secondary site that they back up, I believe, out of Nashville, Tennessee. They go up and down the East Coast, and then, as a matter of fact, when he was doing another revision for me, he was working with the health department in Colorado because we were unique because we don't have any physicians on staff anymore, and we only contract. So they've had to learn with us. That's why our cost is lower, is because we actually contract for the services, and we don't have a physician on staff. It would have been more up there. It would have been a lot higher if we had still had a doctor on staff. But contracting, we were able to drop the price. So that worked to our advantage.
I have another question. I missed it. I've got it written down. Next year's budget will not be affected by a higher cost of maintenance or anything like that?
No, sir, because with the 5-year breakout, we want to buy the system outright for 5 years, so I won't have to come back till 6 years.
Any other question? All right, without objection, this will remain on the consent agenda. Item 13, also Rebecca, contract for nurse practitioner services.
Thank you. With, as you've read in my dissertation in my abstract, we have a very growing older population that works. And even before I became health director, we had our succession plans in place of trying to work with, depending upon which staff people get ready to retire. And we have a lot who are getting ready to retire. And our prices of what we're able to offer people whenever they come to work are way lower than the other counties. Our nurses, I just hired one, and bless her heart, she asked me this morning, will I still get my 3% increase in January? And I went, nope. And she went, oh my God, no, why? I said, you get 3.5%. But she's the one I actually put on here that came to us for $14,400 less. She was able to work that out. Working with the state, because the state needs to change some of their antiquified, is what we call it as a health director, values, because we can't hire a nurse that comes from the hospital, because a hospital nurse is not considered a public health nurse with any public health experience. So they may be working at the hospital or another facility for around $50,000 to $60,000. The most we can offer one coming in is like $34,000 to $37,000. And then we have to pay for their training on top of that, and they may be BSNs. So in looking at this and the state not offering any enhanced role training, in talking with HR, we decided that when my last nurse retired not the last one, but the most current one, at the end of November, who was enhanced role from maternity. And when it's enhanced role, that means they can actually see clients and we can bill for their services. I'm down to one. The state does not offer that training anymore, is not planning on offering that training. She's also my one that I have to do sexually transmitted infections. And people, I'm sorry, like to have sex, and they just keep coming back to us for sexually transmitted infections. And we have one nurse in training, but what we decided in talking to HR was, why don't we contract for a nurse practitioner? That person is a mid-level provider who is already trained to do sexually transmitted infections. They can see our sick kids that we need to have them see. And we bill for services and we can generate money. The nurse who left, because she had been with us almost 25 years, it was 24 years and some odd months, when she left at the end of November, with her salary, we're able to pay for the remainder of the year for a nurse practitioner because she had been here so long. So in looking at our contract price, I'm not having to ask you again, thankfully, for any money. I'm using the balance of what I would have paid for her salary, the $23,350, to do a contract, to do 20 hours a week, because right now we're bumping not being able to offer sexually transmitted disease or infection clinic every day of the week. And the state says that when a person calls in who needs to be seen, we need to see them within 24 hours. We're not doing that right now. We're getting them in within maybe 2 days because I only have one nurse who's both enhanced maternity and in STDs. If I have this 20-hour-a-week person, then they can come in 4 hours every day and we'll have it every day of the week. Again, it's not at any cost. We already have the money to pay for it. And I've already spoke with the hospital, and we'll do another professional service agreement. It will just change, JR, the number of hours and the amount we pay, but it'll be the same scope for a mid-level provider. It's getting very hard to try to find somebody who's not a mid-level provider to provide the care. But we need to do that because our nurses are not qualified to bill by themselves anymore, and the state's not going to provide the training. It's a different generation now.
Okay, gentlemen, you've heard this information. Any questions for Rebecca on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, Rebecca, just a couple of quick questions. The $23,350, according to your presentation, is for the remaining 5 months of this year.
Yes, sir, starting in February.
And the question would be, what happens next year? Will you continue that process?
Yes, sir.
Will it increase your budget?
No, sir.
Now,
What, we'll have
you said you had
56,000.
56,000 that will fill the year.
Yes, sir. The hospital has said that if we would pick up the half, the 56,000, because they'd pay the other half. Because again, we used to have a nurse practitioner probably 10 years ago. And one of the reasons why she left was because we're able to pay around between 56 and 65. Their going rate's 120. So the hospital said if I can say we could pay 56, they'll pay the other 56 and then pick up their benefits and their other stuff. We can do that. We have that money without increasing my budget.
Any other question for Rebecca? So Rebecca, we have one nurse still on staff. So we'll have,
Well, I have 5, but I have 1 enhanced role nurse left. We have 5 nurses. I've gone from 7 to 5. They don't like me very much right now. But I'm trying to get them more help. But they can't do it. They can work, but they cannot bill for services unless you've gone through the adult health assessment course, which they only still do for STDs. And I've got 1 nurse going through that. The other ones can work. I have 2 child health enhanced role nurses. They can actually do for the well child's visits. So I have 2 of them. I have 1 in training, and I've got 1 who does immunizations, and I've got 1 who still does in maternity and STD.
so the STD nurse and this practitioner will kind of fill that spot.
Yes, sir. That's why I'm not refilling the position when the nurse retired. I decided to go with a mid-level provider because he or she can do more than a regular nurse.
Satisfied that we can meet our demand with this level of service.
I am.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman. Rebecca, what's the future, nurse practitioners or nurses?
Probably nurse practitioners will be the future.
How much contact have you made with the local legislators to try to see what we can do about some of these regulations that are required to hire a public health nurse?
Not that much, because we have spoken with the Division of Public Health. I've mainly gone through the Division of, or, yeah, Department of Public Health, or Division. Have not gone to the legislators because they would go back to DPH, so I have not done that yet.
What's DPH's stance? What's the future for them? What do they think?
Advanced care providers to do nurse practitioners. The Dr. Sarah Conti, who is now over Women's Health Branch, does not see the need for the enhanced role nurse of what public health has been for the last 100 years. She sees more for the advanced care provider, which are the nurse practitioners or the PAs.
So what's going to be the role of the health department in 5 years?
Still providing primary care and STDs, pretty much. May or may not do maternity. It depends. There's a lot of the counties who've gotten out of that. That is a county by county whether or not you do maternal health. But they do family planning, STDs, and child health. That's where we look to see that they're going.
And the local hospital, it seems to be very friendly with you to try to help out and pay for things. Is that true?
We pay them, but they're willing to help us, yes, sir. As long as we can work with them, they have been very good partners. Paul has asked me, is there any other groups out in the community that would want to come in? Well, the only outside big group is Burke Primary Care, and I have Dr. Gould who sits on our Board of Health, and he's not really indicated that that's what they want to do, so I would have to go with an outside group outside of Burke County, and I prefer to keep it in the county if I can for a provider. But the hospital we're not in competition with them, so they know we can work well together, and we have a sliding fee scale and they don't. So we're able to get people in through primary care and through other services with our sliding fee scale. But yes, I do have a very good relationship with the hospital. I've tried to keep the lines of communication open with them.
Thank you for your forthrightness.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions for Rebecca? All right, thank you, Rebecca. This matter will remain then on the consent agenda.
Thank y'all very much.
Okay, next three items comes from our tax administrator. First, we'll hear the EMS collection report for November 2016 from Danny.
Afternoon, gentlemen. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and a good New Year. I did myself. Appreciate the time off. We appreciate the bonus that the commissioners gave to us. EMS report, collected year-to-date, $1,034,737.70, which is 60.6%, 36.60% of our budget.
Any question on this matter for Danny?
Is that a little low, Danny? Isn't that? Because this is through November, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Five-
Right. Personal opinion, it could end up being a little bit short, but it's really hard to determine that at this point in time. I think I gave, through the county manager, I sent some information out last month that had the year-to-date collection for EMS for several years on it for a comparison.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Danny. We'll move on to item 15. That'll remain on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Tax collection report for December 2016.
Should be on a handout like this that you received a little bit ago. tax collection, I'm just going to go through the percentages. Current year taxes were at 78.95% collected. That's motor vehicle and ad valorem combined. Delinquent taxes were at 79.87% collected, and late list penalty were at 52.46%.
Questions, gentlemen? You have something else, Danny, did I?
I was just going to say the delinquent collections have really been strong so far this year.
All right, thank you. That item will remain on consent agenda. Item 16, release refund report for December 2016.
Okay, on the release refund report, the very first item, the TR 304, which is the release refunds. And if you remember, a couple months ago, we talked about what was the true amount released, and so hopefully you guys are catching on at this point in time. The sheet that looks like this, I put a extra column on here to show what was billed. So when you see the release report, you see $4,899.60. Of that, $3,237.83 were rebilled, which gives you a net release amount of $1,661.77. Refunds, we got 0 approved there. VTS refunds for the adjustments, we had $722.31. Proration refunds were $713.09.
Any questions for Danny on this matter? Hearing none, then this item will remain on the consent agenda. Danny, thank you for.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I could make one comment, I'd like to say that for the benefit of the public, if you had, of course, until January or till December 31st to pay your taxes to claim that on your federal income tax returns, you have through Thursday to pay those and avoid any interest, which would be January the 5th. And then you have through February 28th to pay those taxes to avoid being advertised in the local newspaper.
Thank you, Danny, for those reminders, and hopefully
Thank you.
our citizens will take those to heart.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, we'll go to item number 6 now, items for decision. We have one item to discuss, architectural services for EMS Base 6. Hear from our county manager, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, as you're aware, we purchased land back before the end of the year for EMS Station 6. And what I'm trying to do now is to identify an architect to do the work that we're going to need to do related to a construction program so that we could have the architectural work done, all the plans done, and put the matter out for actual bids so that I get those bid numbers back and have that in time to put into the budget that would be effective July 1. And I've asked you for a placeholder. I will be acquiring some additional information between now and our actual meeting on the 24th regarding that, but I think the $26,000 amount is probably enough to take care of that, because it also would include some other services besides just the building plan being tweaked as to whatever civil and other types of services that would have to be done, because that's a different location and it'll have its own unique properties that will need to be dealt with as far as construction preparation. And for the firm to take it also through the bid process and then overlook the project once construction is underway is what I'm looking at. So again, it's not a huge amount of money for a project. I've talked with the finance officer about that, and he was in agreement about moving forward the way I'm trying to do now.
All right, thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, just one, that's a single bay, it's not gonna be double, is it?
I think it is double. It's going to be capable of being expanded to multiple crews should that time come, but the number of bedrooms, there would be 2 large bedrooms like there are at Hildebrand that could be split in half to handle additional crews. And it's somewhere around 2,800 square feet.
I was just, the reason I was asking that question, I knew it was somewhat different looked like we could copy it off of Hildebrand or
Well,
somewhere.
that's exactly what we're doing. There'll have to be a little bit of change because of the way the lot's gonna have the building situated, but other than that, in the driveway and whatever grading, and that you would be on a septic tank, although you'll actually have county water there. You know, yeah, why spend a tremendous amount of money on something you've already got a pretty good model to use?
Any other question from Brian on this?
Mr. Chairman, if we're through with this part of the meeting, I was gonna have Steve show us some pictures I got in this morning of the East Burke project,
Okay.
sent this morning. I think that gives you some real perspective there. That'll do it.
Like we're making good progress down there then. Any question from Brian on the East Burke project or this matter?
Quite a bit of excitement down there if you get a chance to ride by.
Good.
It's improving weekly, so.
All right, gentlemen, that brings us to any other matters, any reports that anybody wants to mention at this time? All right, I'll remind you then of several other things coming up, courtesy reminders. Several of us have meetings throughout the month of January. County offices will be closed Monday, January the 16th, in observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Our clerk and Joanna will be attending a clerk's conference in January, the week of 18th through the 20th in Durham. Our regular meeting is on the 24th. Also remind you that we'll be considering our new animal control ordinance following our pre-agenda meeting February the 7th at 4 p.m. Gentlemen, I also would make note concerning our January 24th meeting, and Kay and Brian help me if this needs further explanation, but as it turns out, West Piedmont Council of Governments has a meeting scheduled here in Morganton at the Foothills Conference Center at the same time as our meeting. We didn't realize that at the time. We think that our meeting should proceed pretty quickly, as you've seen today, with just this one decision item. It may be that we would ask one of the commissioners if we need presence at that meeting. Brian, Kay, tell us kind of what you're thinking.
Well, this is a policy board meeting, and our commissioner for the policy board meeting could, try to get down there quickly, or if y'all want to excuse him from the meeting. Again, if everybody's fairly comfortable with what we've done today in pre-agenda, because I'd hate for there to be a little bit of a lapse right here in our own hometown.
Wayne, are you on the policy board, is that correct? You agreeable if maybe need to leave a little bit?
Yeah, we
early?
need to do a welcome and whatever, on behalf of Burke County.
That starts at 6, is that correct? So maybe since you're on that board, excused and just be there unless you have concerns about any of these items. Or that way we'd certainly want to be represented since they are meeting here in Morganton. Sorry for that oversight. I don't think we realized it at the time we moved our meeting to accommodate our clerk being away also. Any other concerns concerning our meeting? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay.